Hi, everyone. My name is Jenna Green, and I'm an admission counselor here at Olin College. And I'm really excited to tell you all there is to know about our institution today. The first is that we are proud to be ranked as the #2 undergraduate engineering program in the nation for the third year in a row. Beyond engineering, Olin shines in areas that reflect our very vibrant student experience. We're the #1 college where students study the most, #2 for best schools for internships, and a leading producer of US Fulbright scholars. Most importantly, though, we're ranked #2 for the best classroom experience and #3 for students who love their college. As you explore Olin today, we hope you'll see why we're celebrated, not only for our academic excellence, but also for our dynamic and supportive community. In order to best understand Olin, it's really important to understand our values and our mission. And with that comes our history. Now, I say history in air quotes because we were founded in 1997 with our first incoming class in 2002. So, our history on our Needham campus is not quite as robust. However, our namesake, Franklin W. Olin, goes all the way back to the late 1800s and the early 1900s. And now Olin had a really hard time accessing education. Eventually, he was able to go on and get a degree in engineering and was a very successful engineer in his field. And with that, he decided he wanted to support students in their dreams of obtaining education that, again, was so difficult for him. And so he actually, for about 50 years, was supporting other schools. So if you're going on other college tours or doing research, be on the lookout for the Olin name because about 70 schools between colleges and institutions or even high schools might have an Olin building, an Olin lab, or scholarship to represent the success that Olin had in, again, supporting their institution students. And now, again, in the board in the 90s, ended up receiving a research article that said something along the lines of, hey, we're really not teaching our engineers that well. Our engineers are doing a lot of independent studying, and they're really not getting a chance to apply what they're learning until post graduation. And even a lot of our students were doing math and science, which of course are very important, but they weren't really getting to the brunt of their engineering courses until their junior and senior year. So Olin was founded in order to transform engineering education, which is that first part of our mission. Now, that second part of our mission also kind of applies to our values, that toward a world in which engineering serves everyone. And we really believe here at Olin that engineering and engineers are the change makers. They're the ones with the real ability to make really big change because we understand that there are some problems like equity, access, systemic racism, and sustainability. And through inclusive teaching, courses, research, and community engagement, we try to equip our students with who am I helping? Who might I be harming? And how do I make the world better? Now, how do they do that? We are a collaborative and inclusive project based learning. At Olin, students will do about 4 to 5 projects per course or within a unit or topic. And we really believe that this project based collaboration really helps our students be applicable and learning how engineers will work after graduation. One of the examples of this class is our quantitative engineering analysis course. And now this is a course that our students take in their very first semester, but it's also a 3 sequence course. So this will be their math and science courses. But instead of it just being called linear algebra, they're learning linear algebra, but they're also immediately learning how it applies to coding facial recognition software. We are also very impact centered education. And we really believe that it's important to make the world a better place and learn how to do it at Olin and really get the opportunity to make an impact at Olin. And so we have a few courses that our students can take, but really that tends to be the broader theme of most of our courses. One of our courses is Engineering for Humanity, where students will actually collaborate with local senior citizens to solve real life problems. One example of this is a previous group worked with a man in the area who had a really hard time reading the newspaper every morning because he had pretty shaky hands. So they sat down with him, brainstormed the problem, and came up with a solution. So they worked on that. And then when they presented the product to him, sure, it fixed the shaky hand problems, but it really was affecting the arthritis in his wrists. So they were able to go back to the drawing board and by the end of the semester, create a real product that, though it seems something as small as just allowing this man to read the newspaper every morning, really impacted his quality of life. Additionally, in our technology, accessibility, and design course, teams will partner with communities to create accessible technology. And this is actually a picture from one of those courses. And for instance, one student group worked with a fourth grader who had spina bifida and had a really hard time feeling independent in the lunchroom and just in general. So they worked to create a wearable tray that he could use while using his crutches that would allow him to be able to go through the lunch line on his own. And again, we really believe in that impact centered curriculum to really make sure our graduates are human centered global thinkers. Lastly, we are intentionally transdisciplinary. So we really believe that engineering is only part of the solution and that it's important that students are working within different disciplines and really learning from that. These courses include material creation, consumption, and impact, where they explore material sciences and solid state chemistry through the lens of plastics and their environmental and societal impacts. We also have principles of integrated engineering, which you'll also hear a lot as PI. I'll warn you right now, you've already heard it before. We have so many acronyms at Olin. We actually have a pop up coffee shop called Acronym. So definitely, if I miss anything, feel free to reach out to me afterwards, and I can help you kind of look more into our acronyms. And in our PI course, second year students conceive, design, and implement a mechatronic system that includes mechanical design, electronics, and software while thinking about a low cost project. So, who are we? So, as of fall of 2023, there were 373 of us right here on campus. You could see we're a very tight knit community. There's about 85 to 100 students per graduating course, per graduating class. And you can kind of see that lined up here, kind of what those demographics look like. The Olin community is really the standout piece of the Olin experience. Our students are really close, not only with each other, but with faculty and staff. We have a 9-to-1 student faculty ratio, and many of our faculty actually go by first name. And it's really easy to find someone. We only have one dining hall. So, students, if they're interested in the research opportunity, they can just go up to a faculty member and ask them more about it. Actually, one example is one of our tour guides was really interested in research that was being done by Chris Lee, one of our professors, and he was able to speak with him. He was at one of his professors and was able to find an open spot to join him to go check out the eclipse in Texas. So that's a really cool opportunity that our students and our first year students are able to do is have this really close connection with faculty and staff on campus. This also means that there's no hierarchy outside of the classroom, and that really still translates inside the classroom. Our classrooms are really discussion based. So it's not going to be a faculty member teaching up front telling you what to think. Instead, they'll present maybe a little bit about linear algebra, but then discuss the implications of facial recognition software and the ethical considerations, and really make it a discussion where they're still learning and they're still being taught, but it's really more of a discussion based course than instead of a very large student lecture. In fact, we only have one large lecture hall on campus, so that will never really be your experience at Olin, as long as you're taking a class right on our campus. Which, speaking of, I'd like to speak more about our BOW collaboration. So that's our Babson, Olin, and Wellesley collaboration. And if you're unaware, Babson is a really great entrepreneurship school, and it's directly next door. We are next door neighbors with Babson. Wellesley is about 2 miles down the road, and they are a liberal arts institution, and they focus a lot more on humanities courses. And it's really great because a shuttle goes between the three schools all day long, allowing there to be a lot of collaboration between students who are very different and have very different interests and have very different ways of thinking. And this really further goes into what we were talking about earlier about being intentionally transdisciplinary, giving students the opportunity to work with one another. Students are able to utilize resources on Babson or Wellesley's campus. For example, we don't really have a large gym on our campus, but all students are able to use Babson's gym. They cross-register in courses without having to go through a separate registration system, and they can work directly with our registrar on getting involved in those courses. And they can get involved in athletics, clubs, or organizations. And sometimes some of our smaller organizations will work together with organizations on the other campuses to put together really large events. One example of this is our Southeast Asian Club was able to work with the other two campuses to put on this really large event. And you can see in the picture that's behind this slide, that is the Wiseman Foundry. And this is really the symbol of the BOW collaboration. And it's an open door design studio. And we have our own shop spaces and many of the resources that are included in Wiseman Foundry on our campus. But what's really great is that this gives students the opportunity to work closely with Babson or Wellesley students. In fact, the Wiseman Foundry actually has a specific grant that it provides that as long as you are working with a member of one of the other institutions on a project, a business idea, anything like that, they will provide grant money because they understand how important it is to kind of have that interdisciplinary communication. So just to talk a little bit about general distribution, because I think people here in engineering college and they think that's all I'll have the opportunity to take. And for some people, you're probably screaming and cheering, like, yes, only engineering. And to those, I'm sorry. There are a few courses that you will have to take in those typical general education requirements. And for those who really have an interest in engineering, but really want to have the opportunity to take those other disciplines, you have that opportunity as well. You can see here in that large pie chart, most of your credits will be in engineering. You also see that math and science. So those are a large portion of the course you're going to be taking. Interestingly enough, is that students actually, some courses have a little bit of everything in it. So, for example, that QEA or quantitative engineering analysis course I talked about earlier is 2 credits in math and science and 2 credits in engineering, really emphasizing that interdisciplinary nature. We also do have what we call the Oz credits. That's going to be your arts, humanities, social sciences, and entrepreneurship. So students do have to take normally about 7 of those courses, as most of our courses are a 4 credit course. And so students will take that. Again, some of them are really engineering focused. If you're someone you're like, I just want to be an engineer, I don't want to take a Shakespeare class. And in that case, you can take classes like AI and humanity or scientific writing. So you're still getting that English learning, but you're learning how it directly applies to your future. Or you might look at me and say, Jenna, I love Shakespeare. In which case, you may be able to look at Babson or Wellesley's campus and get involved in a class like that. Or have, again, a more broader humanities or social sciences course on our campus. So, what are students taking in their first semester? The first semester is pretty strict. So, all of the students within the cohort will be taking the same courses. And this is really important to give everyone that broad foundation. All of our students come in undeclared, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But that means that students are really getting the opportunity to explore every single one of the kind of aspects and broader fields within engineering. So, this schedule it makes up 17 credits with 4 4-credit courses and 1 1-credit course. QEA, as we discussed earlier, that would be that linear algebra as well as that 3 sequence. So that'll be the first of 2 or 3 courses that you would take within that math and science slash engineering realm. ModSim is provides an introduction to mathematical modeling and computer simulation of physical systems. In DesNat, students take nature, an important source of inspiration and understanding, as a theme and develop bio inspired ideas into functional prototypes. And these are really cool projects. So if you are on campus today and you're able to check them out, or if you're watching us virtually, I would highly recommend looking up some of our DesNat Hopper projects. These are really cool projects that have been made by our Olin first years, where they find something in nature like a frog, right, or a kangaroo, and they work to create something that can hop on its own that kind of mimics the way that animal hops. One story I was talking to with one of my tour guides is that they created a kangaroo and they realized why the tail of a kangaroo is so important because it kept falling over. So they were really able to kind of learn how that nature impacts physics and engineering. In the second part of the course, they get involved in a play project where, still based on this biomimicry, now they're working in a larger group and learning a lot of collaborative skills through that. And then we have some of the harshest critics you will ever meet. Fourth graders come from a local school, and they will come and test out all the play projects and give some much needed, sometimes, criticism about how fun it was to play. OFYI, or that Olin first year introductory seminar, will really engage students in a number of topics. This is our 1 credit course, and this is their intro to Olin. And it's about topics like succeeding at Olin through teaming, resume development, and gratitude. And it's co designed by Olin students and covers everything from working in teams to helping you write a resume that will help you get your first internship. Lastly, students are able to select an Oz or an arts, humanities, or social sciences elective. And then in their second semester, they will be placed into an entrepreneurship course. So they're taking those first couple of those broader Oz credits. And that's really where students have their choice in this first semester. So I mentioned before that all of our Olin students basically come in undeclared, whether they have an idea of what they want or what they don't. And this is really because we want our students to get that really broad foundation in those first 2 years. So at the end of their second year, there's something called the sophomore declarathon. And this is where students work together with faculty members, upperclassmen students, and they really decide what they're interested in. So, what are our opportunities here? So, we have our Bachelor of Science in Engineering. It's going to be in mechanical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, and engineering with a concentration. And these concentrations include design, computing, robotics, bioengineering, and sustainability. Those are our pre designed concentrations. If those options don't match your interests, you can actually design your own major with faculty guidance, ensuring that there's enough academic breadth, depth, and rigor. Past self design majors have included human centered software design and sustainable systems. Self design majors must align with Olin's areas of expertise. So, fields like nuclear, civil, or even aerospace engineering typically aren't feasible. However, many students pursue specialized interests within our broader majors. For instance, a student interested in aerospace engineering might major in mechanical engineering, take aerospace focused electives like mechanical and aerospace systems, and get involved in projects like the Aero Team or the Plasma Engineering Lab. And this approach allows students to build an aerospace ready resume while keeping their options open to explore other areas of mechanical engineering. And again, if you're not sure what to study, no problem. All students will have the first 2 years to explore these choices. Now, moving off of our Needham campus, where are students going? This is Cole in Auckland, New Zealand. And studying away at Olin means that you can study abroad or you can study within the United States. For example, I know one student was really interested in fashion merchandising and was able to spend her semester going to FIT in New York. The class of 2024 had half of their students participate in a study away program, and they are going everywhere. Singapore, South Korea, Japan, Italy. There's over 100 approved programs and destinations. But if it's not on this list, it does not mean that it is not possible. Something that's really great about Olin and it being a newer school and a smaller school is sometimes you're creating your own path. So the first person to go to Singapore might have thought it wasn't possible until they were really able to do the research with our study away office or international programs office to find programs available for them. And now, what are they doing? Since we have such an interesting curriculum, credits transfer very rarely to our programs because you're not, again, taking that linear algebra course. You're taking a very broad course. So many will fulfill their Oz credits there, do studio arts, philosophy, maybe learn Spanish and go to Spain. So that's kind of how our students will tend to study away without having to add any extra time. Most of our students are able to graduate in 4 years with the study away credit still in it. And most of our students will do this in their first semester of their junior year. So for student internships and research, Olin students really gain valuable experiences from their very first class to their very last class that prepares them for jobs, research, and internships. Our proactive postgraduate planning office, or PGP, provides personalized support, hosting multiple career fairs with many different companies. In 2022, you can see 100% of our graduates completed a technical internship or research, with 80% doing two or more. Additionally, nearly all of our first years will participate in at least one research or internship opportunity before even beginning their second year. And this is something that's really great about the Olin curriculum is they have already, by the time they're done at Olin, taking 10 engineering courses with maybe 4 to 5 projects each. They have a pretty in-depth engineering portfolio. So you can see where some of our students have gone. They've interned at top companies like HP, Google, and Apple. And despite our alumni network being smaller and younger than other institutions, it's still very strong and it's very passionate. And many students receive internships due to existing alumni connections. And they're really, if someone has not completed an internship there before, our office, our PGP office, really works one on one on students. They actually believe it's important to know every single first year's name by the time they begin their second year. So that way they're really creating these close connections and allowing you to find the best opportunity for you. Entrepreneurship, education, and employment are all very important topics here at Olin. So here's a more detailed list of the companies our students are founding, top graduate schools, and the top employers. The average starting salary for our recent graduates is $100,635. And postgraduate planning, our career center helps identify these meaningful research, internship, scholarship, fellowship, professional, and graduate school opportunities. What I think is most important, though, is that in a 2023 alumni survey, 85% of Olin alumni reported loving their job, with 97% feeling valued in the workplace. We also have these opportunities in our students' senior year to get involved in a capstone project. So we have Scope, ADE, and TVC. We really try not to make anything at Olin just one more checklist before you need to go, but instead be the final bow on your Olin education experience. If you're interested in working alongside another company, Scope might be the right spot for you, or working with low income communities or nonprofits, maybe that's ADE, or maybe you want to take the time to work on your own adventure with fellow Olin students. That's where you would go through the TVC. If you're interested in learning more, almost all of these programs have larger presentations and websites that you can check out to see some of the work that our students have done. Living on campus. We are a 4-year residential community. Most of our students live on campus all 4 years, unless you're cold in New Zealand. And for our first and second years, they will live in West Hall with private bathrooms. And for our junior and senior students, most of them will live in suite style living, which are normally doubles or singles with a shared bathroom between 3 or 4 rooms. For our first and second year rooms, they're mainly comprised of double and triple style rooms. We also have unlimited dining at the dining hall. Students get as many swipes as they want with Olin dining, but they also have some swipes to cross dine with BOW schools, so at Babson or Wellesley. And they can also bring in guests to Olin. They have a certain amount of guest swipes that they can bring to Olin. Getting involved at Olin. We have so many different opportunities to get involved. We have project teams, which I've heard actually described as like our varsity sports. This is where students will go and compete against other institutions. Baja is the one you can see. That's our off-roading vehicle. Aero, it's where they'll actually create model planes. Opal is our Olin Plasma Engineering Lab. Formula is an F1 kind of electric vehicle race car and rocketry. And there's so many more, like a combat robotics team. We do have a few sports on our campus: handball, soccer, ultimate frisbee, and unicycling, and a couple more. However, most of our students who are interested in getting involved in athletics will get involved on Babson or Wellesley's campus. For example, we had about 6 students from Olin join the Babson rugby team, and they actually went on to win their regional championship. For performing, we have lots of opportunities to get involved there as well. We have a theater program, an a cappella group, we have an Olin conductorless orchestra, and we have our improv troupe. And then we also have what you can see there, OFAC. That is our Olin Fire Arts Club. And I always think that perfectly encapsulates the trust that we have in students and to actually be spinning fire on our campus. But it's really cool. I'd highly recommend checking it out on YouTube if you're interested. And then we also have just a number of other clubs that students can get involved in. Acronym is our pop-up coffee cart. CORE is our student government. We have a number of identity groups like the Mix and SWE. We also have Slack, which is Stay Late and Create, which every Wednesday they put on some sort of activity to relieve stress. Closer to the end of the semester, they'll tend to have therapy dogs on campus or mindfulness activities. The past 2 Octobers, they've done a dino night where they've made over 20 pounds of chicken dinosaur nuggets and done a ton of dinosaur trivia, and the winners would get chicken dino pillows. Now, if all of that sounds really great to you, what are the steps to applying to Olin? So we have a very typical phase one that include the common application as well as your transcripts. We will require your current senior grades, and this is to ensure that students will have calculus or physics by the time that you graduate. So that is an important application requirement that we have. We do have our currently through the 2025 and 2026 application cycle, we are still test optional. We're still working on a permanent policy for that. So if you have any specific questions about that, you can reach out to our office. And this means it is truly optional. If you choose not to submit, there's going to be no assumptions on our part that maybe it was a bad score. So really only submit if you think it adds to your application or if you think it helps tell the story. And then we will need a school counselor recommendation and then 2 classroom teachers. One must be a math or science teacher. Now, we are very holistic. So, when I mentioned, does it add to the context of your application? We are looking at everything that you're doing and really trying to get an understanding as best as we can through the application of who you are as a student. Unlike other institutions, we're not just admitting students in a classroom, where every single person inside of a class of 100 students, is a percentage. They make a big impact. So, we're really looking for community members. Now, currently our deadline is December 15th. For all updated information, make sure you're checking out our admission website. After this deadline, we normally take about a month, and by the end of January, we'll notify normally 300 or so out of the 1,000 applicants we normally receive to be part of phase two, which is Candidates Weekend. Candidates Weekend happens in this year, will be these 3 weekends, and it's really a time for you to come and learn more about Olin. There will be a small evaluative portion where we will do a individual interview and a group interview, but most of it is you learning about Olin and getting to ask any questions that you might have and seeing how you fit into the overall community. After this weekend, we normally invite about 200 students, with normally an incoming class size again about 85 to 115. For tuition and financial aid, I highly recommend reaching out to our financial aid office for any specific information. You can see here our cost of attendance, including estimated indirect expenses, which changes based obviously someone who lives in Needham. The price is going to be a little bit lower for travel than it would be for someone living in Washington. So that takes us to about $89,000 for this current cost of attendance. However, every single one of our students is currently awarded a merit tuition scholarship. So that differs based off the incoming year, but that immediately will relieve some of that cost of attendance. Additionally, we have a very generous need-based financial aid program. As long as students submit their FAFSA by February 15th, we will meet 100% of demonstrated need for U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Thank you so much for joining me on my virtual tour of Olin today. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can find me on the website. My email is jgreen@olin.edu. Or if you'd like to be connected with your specific admission counselor, or if you have any general questions, you can reach out to info@olin.edu. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much.